Okay. Um, in that case, we'll just get started with it. So, um, like you all are aware, today we will be, um, I'll be rather sharing my experiences over the last couple of years around something in the school education field that couple of us have been into. And first of all, thanks to Think India team for giving this opportunity to share this experience with all of you. And especially at this time when we are all under lockdown, it is quite good experience to share uh, my experience in particular with all the people on that side. So we'll just get started. Um, right. So I was just exploring some options. Um, Okay, so before we get started, I just have like two glasses. I don't know if you can see. Okay, this glass at least it's clear. So there is some cold water inside this glass, and you can see some air, water droplets outside. I just have a question. If we ask maybe a fourth or a fifth grader child, so about 9 or 10 years old child, and ask that child where does these water droplets come from? Any guesses? What will they think? From where do these water droplets come? I am actually looking at the comment video, so you can uh, check out. Sorry, you can just type your reply in the comment window. I can just see that. So, what do you think? What will a child think? Where do these water droplets come from? Um Replies. No reply yet. I don't know if people on the other side are able to hear properly, but just waiting for reply. If you are able to hear, if you can just type the reply, what do you think a 10-year-old child think these water droplets are coming from? Where are these water droplets coming from when there is cold water inside the glass? So there is some cold water inside the glass and the droplets you can see over here. So where do these water droplets come from? Okay. Okay, so I don't know if the reason there's no reply. But anyways, I'll just tell uh, does a child think. So most of the times when we do this in the schools or in any other setup, then the child think that the water is actually coming from inside to outside. So the water droplet, which is the cold water which is there inside, it is actually coming outside. Now that's something very surprising because most of us will just think that it is coming from the atmosphere. But for a child, that understanding is because there is nothing outside, there is no way that anything can come from outside. So the child just think that it is coming from inside. Yeah. So somebody is doing a nice comment from inside the glass. Maybe there are small holes. So that's when we just show them that if there is normal water inside the glass, why does it not come out? So any guess is if there is normal water, the water does not come out. But when there is cold water, the water comes out of the glass. So I'll just wait maybe for a couple of seconds for you to type your replies if anybody is typing out there. So what do you think? What will the child say? Okay, So then they say that in the cold water it is maybe forming some gas bubbles and coming out. Somebody say that the cold water it becomes vapor and then it comes out like this, or some just converts into gas and then comes out from here. But what happens next is very interesting. So typically it will just tempt us to tell the child that, hey, this is wrong answer, it is not what you are thinking. So the water is coming from the atmosphere. But that's where the trick is. So instead of giving this direct answer to the child, it becomes very interesting if we just ask that child that this is your hypothesis, and can you design an experiment to prove your hypothesis that the water is coming from inside to outside. So what kind of experiment can you design? So the child, in the classroom there is a lot of brainstorming happening, and then somebody comes up that if it is coming from inside to outside, then the water level inside should come down. Somebody say that we can just have colored water and then prove that it is coming from inside to outside. So they still think that it is coming from inside to outside. And after doing this experiment, finally they realize that it is actually not coming from inside to outside. So at least this first initial hypothesis has been proven incorrect, which is perfectly okay, because we are not really judging anybody's conceptual knowledge over here. We are just giving more importance to the process of learning over here. So then it becomes about more and more experiment design, and finally with lot of experiment design, somebody even sometimes relate this to somebody say that when my parent cooks some boil water or boil rice, then on the top of the lid we see similar water droplets, and then it becomes interesting to relate this particular observation to the observation that water droplet on the inside of the lid while boiling water is also a similar thing. And there is a lot of inquiry after that, and finally we reach the conclusion that it is actually because of temperature difference, and there is cold water inside and there is atmospheric water vapor, and connecting a couple of more principles and finally reaching to this conclusion. What would have been tempting otherwise, which will just end this particular topic in 5 minutes, it sometimes takes more than an hour. But yeah, so but the process that they go through in this particular learning, that becomes very important. So they are having their own hypotheses, their hypothesis going wrong, and then designing another experiment with whatever new observations they have or new hypotheses they have, and then finally proving that particular thing till it is reasonably clear what exactly is the concept. So for the last 1.5-2 years, a couple of us, mainly from the Indian Institute of Science, Bangalore, we have come together and we are working with several schools with the main aim. So we have just called ourselves as seed to sapling education. It's simple, seed to sapling. So just nurture the seed to realize its potential to finally become a sapling. And the school being the nice environment for that particular nurturing. So how does it happen? We just right now we are mainly focusing on science and maths. Obviously the long term aim is to go beyond science and maths. So at least for science and maths for the time being, the way we are approaching is actually there were replies, sorry. I did not see the replies, sorry. I should have scrolled. Sorry. Anyways, so I'm happy that there are a lot of replies out there. Somebody says that cold water is smart enough to come out, say due to atmosphere and the temperature of the water. So yeah, that is the correct answer, but for the child that becomes a bit abstract concept. So slowly we have to come from this real thing, what they can see, look around, and then come to the abstract thing. Similarly in maths also. So the idea is not to teach anything to them. The idea is to take them through this process of science and maths where they are exploring, they are designing, they are going wrong. There is the first right which we tend to give is right to be wrong. So it's perfectly okay to make mistakes, which is something very surprising for not only the kids but even for the teachers or even for the school management, where for years they are in this mindset that you have to be correct and you have to write correct answers in the examination, but suddenly somebody comes and say that, hey, you have right to be wrong. So it's okay to give wrong answers, but you just have to think and communicate your thoughts to the facilitator. So with this right to be wrong, which is given to them, they are opening up a lot. And I was actually exploring the option of screen sharing, but I guess now I'm not able to do that. So I'll just take you through some of the photographs. So typically, when we take classes, so this is how our classes look like now. And these are all taken by the teachers. I'll just come to the execution part. But the classes are more of interactive now, where all the kids are actually wanting to ask answer the questions which are asked by the teachers. But now, coming to one of the very important thing is, we are not really looking to bypass the teachers or take away anything from the teachers. The idea is, take the teachers through this process. So in the long run, the teachers are empowered enough and they can take the sessions by themselves. So how does it go? We take whatever curriculum the school is following, and based on that curriculum, the modules are designed for all the chapters of science and maths. And these modules are mainly in the inquiry manner, where there's a lot of dialogue between the facilitator, who is the teacher, and the learners, the students. And with these modules, we take the teachers through this process themselves. So for many of the other things, for example, I'll just take a simple piece of paper, nothing much over here. So what will happen if I blow this paper over here? What do you think? What will happen? Any guesses? Quickly type in the comment box. We should turn off the fan. Yeah. Any guesses? What will happen if I blow this paper over here? Will it go up? Will it go down? Or will it stay as it is? So I am blowing the paper at this angle. Yeah. Any guesses? Okay, I guess it takes some time for the comments to show up. So how does it work? Okay, so we have just seen that I was blowing this paper from the top, but instead of going down, that is what we will think typically, it was actually coming up. Now, we will not go into the details of the scientific concept behind each of these things that we are discussing, but then the focus is, yeah, so there are a lot of replies over here also. So but the focus is, take the teachers through this process. So why do you think initially, many times the teachers also end up saying that we will go down, and then I mean, this happens to all the chapters. So I'm just showing some examples which are quite easy to show in this virtual platform. And then take them through this process of inquiry instead of going down, why is it coming up, and then discuss all the other things and finally reaching the Bernoulli's principle and stuff. But it's very important to take the teachers also through this process. Why is it important is because the teachers are very much in habit to reveal answers and explain things to finally make the students understand. But in this particular process of explaining the kids any topic, we miss a very important thing is, what is my inherent understanding of whatever concept. So then if that is addressed, and then finally you are giving a lot of opportunity for me to think around that concept, make mistakes, lot of mistakes, and then finally reach the concept. But then I become the owner of that particular knowledge. You just help facilitate the process of learning, and with that, you just became the facilitator and not the teacher. And I become a learner over here and not the student, because I am doing a lot of self-learning in the process with your help as a facilitator. So it's very important that we take the teachers through this process. So our program is mainly aimed towards the teacher, and in turn the teachers do the entire learning in the classroom. Obviously there is a lot of hand-holding in the entire process, but like the idea is to empower the teachers so that at least in a year or so they get empowered enough so that they can drive the entire process by themselves. So that's how the process works. And in this particular process, we have had like lot of interesting stories a lot of new experiments, lot of new observations. Maybe I'll just share some of the other photographs now. These nature walks or any of these observations around nature are some of our favorites. In fact, I'm just showing you a simple wild almond fruit over here, and I don't know if it is clear enough, but you can see some of these structures uh, over here. And this child just spotted one such thing in the pond itself. And then we were just wondering that what exactly it is. Even we were not aware. So it happens that many times the questions or the observations which comes from the students, we also don't know the answers. So again, that is another attitudinal shift that needs to be brought about, that it's okay to accept in front of the kids that we don't know everything and nobody knows everything in this world and not everything is known in this world. So there is a lot of this unknown territory and we are all there to finally explore this unknown territory. So this particular structures, then we came back and saw in the microscope and figured out that it looks something like this. Very interesting. We shared with some of our ecology friends and finally realized that these were some eggs of some insect. And this particular silk over here is a matter of great research because it is holding this egg upright, which is not even happening in the case of what do you call spider web. So the strength of this particular uh, uh, fiber becomes even more important. And this was all around the school, and we just had to ask that child again to get this particular fruit, and he was quick enough to climb that tree and get it back. And the fruit which is lying right there in the school backyard is a matter of great research somewhere else also, and the child could observe that. Similarly, we have got lot of experiments from the kids which we never thought, we never anticipated those kind of things. So there is a lot of crowdsourcing of experiment, there is a lot of crowdsourcing of observations that keeps coming in this entire process. And it's fun because every day you actually look forward to new and new experiments or new and new observations or new and new questions from the students. And for us also it becomes very interesting when we come back and keep discussing all these interesting things coming from the classroom. And even for the teachers it becomes very interesting. Now the classroom, which generally used to be like for us to explain the kids, please pay attention or listen to something which I am saying because I am saying something very important. And now when you confuse them and everybody is like, please tell us what exactly it is. We cannot take this confusion any further. Just imagine now this child, all these kids, when they were going through this condensation chapter, they are all on their toes and just tell us what is the answer, and still you don't have to reveal anything, and just keep them further confusing or rather guiding to some new experiments. And finally they, so instead of a classroom setup where you want them to listen and learn, they are now very curious themselves in terms of even designing experiments and conducting those things. Very simple ones. And they wanting to learn, they wanting to listen to you. And you just have fun out there in confusing them and driving this entire process. Now I can just take you through some of the other experiments now. Experiments on plants. Again, most of these experiment design is from the students. We never so some student came up with an experiment design to show that what actually soil is not essential for the process of photosynthesis. Initial hypothesis was soil is important because that is what they have been studying. Okay, there are just so many things. Yeah, some of the other favorite things, just electrical circuits and stuff, how to grow a bulb. In fact, we just gave them some of these basic electrical components, and one child ended up testing all the chocolate wrappers and testing which all chocolate wrappers are conducting electricity and the bulb still glows, and which all chocolate wrappers does not glow the bulb or not conducting the electricity. Now this is again something we will not anticipate because we were not thinking from that angle. I'll just show you now one experiment which I am expecting now. Okay, there is a question, so I'll just quickly read out this question. And then many teachers today lack the spiritual foundation necessary to recognize the importance of being a student first and a teacher later. For some, teaching is merely a conduit to assert their superiority to themselves. What can you expect but rote teaching from such teachers and the developing generations who live life through question answer paradigm instead of questioning and inquiry paradigm? That's true. In fact, we were discouraged by many people that you are actually working with a very difficult group. Teachers are not someone who will change themselves, and they have these years of baggage and inertia, and you are going in a very hopeless kind of territory, and best of luck. And we realized that it is not so bad. In fact, we got this from many teachers that we also wanted to be different, we also wanted to be unique, we just wanted some push, some support, and we are happy now. So they are actually doing it. So our initial hypothesis that it will probably not work with the teachers, but still, let's give it a try. And this hypothesis actually went wrong, and the teachers are somehow doing it, enjoying it. So it is not so much that teachers really want to assert their superiority. There are obviously a fraction of teachers who really want to assert their superiority, and they will use all sorts of expletives in front of the students, and that goes on. But in our limited experience, that is a minority group. The majority group actually wants to do something. Just that obviously school management also has to be open, which also is not that bad a situation. Management is also more or less open. The teachers are also more or less open. So there are some. Uh, there is a pressing need to educate the teachers in foundation of being a student. Yeah. So as I mentioned that our main target group is teachers. So the idea is to make, or rather create teachers who themselves are learners, and create teachers who can in turn create learners, so that teachers themselves become lifelong learners and then create lot of other lifelong learners in their classroom. So that is the idea which we go through. Now one another interesting experiment I am tempted to show everybody. Now there's an arrow over here, and it just shaded arrow over here, and I have a glass of water. So I'm just expecting your replies. How will this arrow look like through the empty glass? So right now the glass is empty. How will this arrow look like through this empty glass? Any guesses? I'm just waiting for a couple of replies before I show you how does this arrow look like. You can all do it at home. I mean, all you have to do is just draw up an arrow and draw this glass. I mean, have this glass and see how does this arrow look like. So, any guesses? How will this arrow look like? Okay, I'm waiting for replies around this while I'm reading the other comments. Yeah, I agree with the comment which might be same as it is drawn, smaller. Okay, so in terms of size, we are not worried right now much. I mean, we can obviously worry about the size also, but right now I am just worried about the direction. So if we see, then the direction of the arrow looks similar. Okay, now I'll just pour some water over here, uh, plain drinking water. Now, what do you think? How will this arrow look like? Through this glass which has water inside this. So any guesses now? Smaller and deformed, it looks small, okay. Now with the water inside the glass, how will this arrow look like? Any guesses? Okay, I guess there is some delay in the delay time when the replies are actually shown in this screen. But it's okay. I'll just wait for maybe 15-20 more seconds. So there is this arrow, uh, and there is glass with water. How does the arrow look like through this? Sorry, how will, yeah, through this glass? Okay, same direction, reverse direction. Let's see. You see the direction now. Yeah. changed. Uh, Anyways, so you can see that direction is actually changing over here. Okay, so you can just keep doing this experiment. Instead of a glass, if you have a bottle which is capped, then you can hold the bottle in this particular orientation, or also um, in the horizontal orientation, and see for yourself how will it work in this orientation versus in this orientation, and keep exploring. So the idea is not only students but learners, so, and not only teachers. Now I'm expecting all the viewers on the other side also, just whatever interesting thing comes, just keep exploring anything that we see around. I mean, there are just so many observations. In fact, last 2-3 weeks there's more chance that we are at home, and there are a lot of things happening in the kitchen, and then we hypothesize that maybe not this thing, or salt, or the amount of time for cooking, and lot of interesting observations at home also. So it's like this every time and any time, and a lot of things happening around, and then you just wonder about everything, that how is it happening, or how is it not happening. And uh, uh, the change happens not only for that given time while you are at it, but slowly and slowly it is actually become just a life attitude itself. In fact, that is what we have got from parents. In fact, parents have been giving this sweet complaint that the students don't do homework, but they are busy doing experiments. So, I mean, some teachers may not like it, but for us, it's a nice thing that that homework which the students are not taking. Written a nice comment around that, that the teachers are actually preparing students answer a few questions correctly, and but they are not able to, they are ill prepared to face the real life situation. So that is what we are trying to change over here. And now they are busy in their own experiments at home. Somebody says that their mobile time has come down, or the TV time has come down, or the game time has come down. Hopefully not the outdoor game time, but at least the mobile game time has come down. So all these are nicer thing now, that the students are more interested in the exploration part, and it's a very general exploration. Now all this while I was talking mainly about science, but I just want to make it clear that we don't really intend to just make it like propagating only science. We want to propagate not science but the other subjects, and not only the subjects which are there in the textbook, but go beyond curriculum also. So now onwards, I'll just spend some time to. So maths is obviously the other subject. Even maths, there are like so many interesting stories that we have. In fact, we have got many interesting formulas which were not given in the textbook. So alternate way of uh, solving the same problem, or sometimes even coming up with a formula. Like an example, one student in some class came up with a formula of divisibility test of 11. Now that formula was not given in the textbook. Teachers were not sure how is it working, but that seemed to be working. We were also not sure how does that formula work. But then finally we had to spend some more time to figure out how does that formula work. And so it is not only about science or maths also. I mean, we are involved in some other projects where it is about very general school environment itself. So the idea behind seed to sapling is not just science or maths or classroom or any of those other limiting things. It is about general learning process itself. So uh, uh, okay, now anybody has any questions, you can just keep typing. So in between, I'll just take a look at the questions also going around. So yeah, what do you think is wrong with the training given to the government teachers? I'll just take this question. There are like 2 or 3 questions. So I'll just take them one by one. Wrong with the training given to the government teachers, or I'll just take it like a very general thing, like not only government teachers, generally training given to the teachers. So we got some chance to even go through the curriculum which goes in this B.Ed course, and there are like lot of interesting things in the B.Ed curriculum also. So when the training is given, they are actually taught about all these philosophies that I am right now talking. But one of the unfortunate thing is like you teach them inquiry based learning, but there is no inquiry while teaching inquiry based learning. You teach them constructivist approach of learning, but in that process you are not actually constructing knowledge. So even these concepts which require a lot of interaction or a lot of exploration or communication between the facilitator and learner, that those concepts also are actually taught. So the teachers are always, and then obviously there are a lot of other classroom constraints. So the training which is given is more to do, and then they have to finish the syllabus and they have to give the notes, and then they feel that if they don't give notes, then how will the students write in the examination? Now that is in fact one of our biggest challenge, that to bring them out of this notion that the students cannot write on their own or they are dumb enough, and we have to actually feed them everything, and only then they will mug up the things and uh, uh, vomit or reproduce in the examination. So it takes time, and the thing is, it is like not the teachers, because the teachers also thought the same thing, or when they are taking the course of becoming teachers, that course facilitators or the teachers also thought the same thing. So it's not about the training, but it's about that environment which is there, which uh, everybody seems to think that we have to give students. Sometimes we also hear from our teachers that no, sir, those schools are different. Those students can do it in the foreign countries. They can do it, but our students cannot do it. Uh, but then we're like, ma'am, please give them some chance at least to think and figure out and explore. And then we have seen those same teachers getting surprised that, oh, we never expected that this will come from our students. So it is like we are underestimating the potential that a child has, and immense potential actually. We have had like n number of examples now where they have surprised us a lot, and they continue to just surprise us everyday basis. Uh, so the next question is, many useless seminars and workshops are conducted round the year, huge wastage of fund and time take place. Do you think there is any alternate to this? So again, see, the idea behind these seminars and workshops is for the faculty development program. Now, how does those workshops, that is another thing. So um, and finally, there is also somewhere like this apathy towards education in general and school education in particular. We don't think that it is very important. Like school education, that fundamental education thing is not really important. And we all know the situation of the government schools, obviously. But even private schools, because it's finally coming from the same college, the teachers are coming from the same place. So we think it is okay. And then in terms of education also, we don't, I mean, there is a lot of disconnect between different sections of the society or different stakeholders in the field of education. The government hardly gives any much importance to education. Of late, fortunately, there are like elections being fought on the school issue of school education, which is a very encouraging sign. But other than that, not much in terms of importance given to the school education, especially. In fact, I just remembered about this thing by Abdul Kalam. So I heard him a couple of times and speaking the same thing. So he used to say that there are three people in any child's life which who are the most important people. Uh, so he says that the first is father, the second is mother, and the third is actually the primary school teacher. He never mentioned that it is the teacher. He always used to say the primary school teacher. So that teacher is very important in shaping what we are. But we actually, as a society, we hardly give any importance to teachers or the school teachers and forget about the primary school teachers. So even the career option of teacher is like many a time that stopgap kind of arrangement. So unless those general things are changed, that we start giving importance to the profession as such, it becomes very difficult to expect like great quality in terms of teachers, and then obviously as a result in terms of school education. So it is somewhere our thing also as a society, what kind of importance we give to school education in that case. So the question, please tell different philosophies of education. I'll just skip this thing because there are like a lot of educators, and probably I am not competent enough to talk about many of these different education philosophies. Somebody has mentioned Steiner, but yeah, there are a lot of interesting education philosophies, and people have experimented a lot in India and elsewhere. And like Steiner, somebody has mentioned, so his philosophy also has been like quite interesting, giving a lot of freedom to a child. So yeah, but anyways, I'm not going into much of detail about different education philosophies. So I think training and appraising of government teachers is being done as a mandate of the protocol, but private teachers are very far behind in such exposures. So okay, I don't want to go into this debate about government school versus private school or the government school teachers versus the private school teachers. Uh, but one thing is, right now we are mainly working with private school teachers for a simple reason. Obviously, English language is one thing, and the other thing is in the private schools, if the management takes a call, then the teachers are somewhere mandated to those things. Whereas in the government school, it becomes lot of bureaucratic process, lot of hierarchies. You have to approach lot of people, and finally, to get anything done from the teachers, they already have lot of work. So I'm not really trying to blame the teachers because there is lot of non-academic kind of responsibilities which are lying with the teachers. So very difficult to expect those kind of things. Now, in terms of training, I am not making any much comment whether the training is good in government teacher or the private teachers. So I'm just refraining from comment over here because parents are there. Um, Okay, so I'll just mention some of these philosophies, maybe. So this Steiner's philosophy somebody has mentioned, or Jiddu Krishnamurti's a philosophy from India itself. Even Aurobindo had a nice philosophy. Then Montessori philosophy, which generally we talk only when it comes to this early childhood care, but Montessori had things for other people also. Then there are these constructivist approach, so that philosophy by Piaget. I mean, there are a couple of other educators. So, yeah, this multiple intelligence thing, which is by Howard Gardner, who is one of the living educator right now in Harvard University. So, yeah, I'm just mentioning some of these names. You can just read up more on this. Yeah. So, how can you institutionalize your efforts and build a movement around it? Can we start with having a portal where students all over India can post the individual experiments, and then an online discussion can be started? You can comment and guide all of them. Wow, whoever. At least for the time being, we are this organization Seed to Sapling Education with a very limited team, but a very nice team, very motivated and passionate people right now, and mainly from research background. But obviously, we are open for people from all the different background, and so, but yeah, right now what we are doing is very human intensive work where we are interacting with lot of teachers. Now, in terms of students, somebody is just saying that we can actually have a portal. Now, this is a very interesting suggestion. Maybe I'll just check with the Think India team or any of these similar team if they are willing to have such initiate a portal like this, and we all whoever is interested can contribute over here where students across the country can post individual experiments. But yeah, this online discussion, there is a lot of limitation, but yeah, a lot of power also. Especially in the last 2-3 weeks, we are realizing that if we had already some experience in online education, we could have done a lot during these difficult times because there are a lot of kids out there and we could have engaged them in a nicer way. So, but yeah, this is definitely something which we will ponder upon, and hopefully in some time frame we will come up with something tangible around it. So yeah, this is something we will definitely think about. Yeah, any other questions or queries from the viewers right now before I move on to the some of other things in conclusion? So okay, so yeah, as I mentioned that we are right now this organization, some of these common things that we have, yeah, this is very important, this right to be wrong. Uh, One of our favorite thing and one of the most important thing, right to be wrong, because otherwise everybody is in this thing that we should always be correct. Now, when we give them this right to be wrong, in this process of going wrong, they actually and accidentally but encounter a lot of interesting things. So that is there. Now, in terms of some of the other things, now as a group or as a society, what all things we can really do. So one is like definitely, which is not much importance given to school education generally. So we think that it is okay. I mean, and it is important to make them competitive, but then we are losing out on so many other things. So in this competitive world, there is a lot of collaboration thing which could have actually happened. Now, instead of lot of this cramming up and rote learning thing, there could have been lot of innovative thought process which could have been um, uh, focused or ignited in the kids. So we need to somewhere see with the balance now. What give more importance or what not, that how do we see things. So that is the thing now. In terms of some of the other things now, I mean, think India is obviously having some power, but we should also make sure that somewhere we give importance to education, but more importantly school education. Obviously think India is giving importance to education, but school education is neglected many times, and primary school education even more, because that is okay, fine, anybody can just do it. And even otherwise, like, how many of you really want to contribute in terms of school education, or see yourself as somebody who is willing to like give full time only for school education? So even among the people who are educated lot, we feel that uh, going to the kids is not so important, or we are not competitive enough to go there. But it's actually quite not so difficult, and in fact very enriching, very fulfilling experience. So anybody who is like motivated and interested, you can just jump in this field. Like, lot of scope, lot of scope. People sometimes ask us who are your competitors. We say unfortunately not many. We expect more competitors. We expect more people to come in this field, because uh, actually this field lacks good people. So more and more people are most welcome to join. I'll just take up, there are a couple of more questions. So education and medical should not be private. It should run by the government with all facilities to meet the requirement as in private system, and the students should work in the same government institutions as if there is no private institutions or organization. So again, this is a very debatable kind of things. In fact, if we see the schools again, during at the time of independence, there are mostly public schools only, the government schools only, and most of the people right now, the successful people, are all coming from the government schooling system. But somehow, for several reasons, from the government side, from the state side, from the society side, the government schools, people in fact don't prefer sending their kids to the government school. I mean, we can all say that it should be all state-owned education and stuff, but how many of us are really willing to send our kids to government school systems or go to the government hospitals? We all, I mean, we can always say that we want government schools or we want government hospitals, but finally, when it comes to our self or our family or our kids, we will always prefer the private thing. So again, this is a very long thing debate. So I'm just giving some without making any conclusions. But yeah, it's a very tricky thing, government versus private. But whatever it is, I mean, there are successful examples in different countries for both the things. There are countries where the government is actually owning the education and healthcare and doing amazingly well, and there are countries where both the things are mostly with the private players, and they are also doing quite well. So it's finally up to us as a country, where do we see ourselves and which system may work best for us. So finally, we have to figure out our own system. So yeah, it's very, otherwise a very tricky question. Yeah, anybody has a question, instead of raising hand, just type your question or comment. So that will be good enough. Then somebody says that, let me know, I would be interested to associate with the organization in a purely voluntary role. Okay, yeah, so anybody interested, please feel free to contact. I am just typing my mail ID over here. You can just mail, and I'm also just typing the website link, so you can just either mail or get in touch through the website. So both things are mail, and you can just go through that. any other, yeah. Okay. So if that is the thing, then we can uh, we are good to conclude, or we have some other questions. Anybody has any questions quickly? Maybe I'll just wait for another minute or so, and if no more questions, then I'll just wait for Ganesh is not to uh, end this particular live session. So yeah, otherwise it was a like a interesting uh, meeting. Never expected that a Facebook live session can also be so interactive. So thanks for all these comments. Even during those experiments thing, people were actually typing what they think or what the kids will think. So it was interesting that you were quite interactive throughout the session, and the number of comments itself is a testament to that. So I enjoyed taking the session and having some interaction even on the Facebook and kind of. Yeah, thank you everybody. Unless there is a question, so in that case we may just wait. Otherwise, yeah. So uh, Ganesh, if you can just write, we can just conclude the session here. Um, Yeah, anybody has any question or comment or anything, please type it in the comment box and we can just take that up. Because I see suddenly there is increase in the number of viewers. So, there is a new comment. So, okay, sure. Do write. Yeah. Anybody interested, you can just get in touch. We'll be more than happy to have more interested people across the country. So, that will be. Yeah. Okay then. Yeah. Thank you. I'll just uh, end the live session then at this point. Thank you everyone for participating. I just enjoyed this session on from this side. Yeah. Thank you.